Hello students, teachers, parents, history nerds. Hello everybody, and welcome to Nutshelled History, where we lay out the facts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Today we're going to continue our American government series by looking at comparative political systems. Don't forget that there's a link for a fill-in-the-blank worksheet in the description. I just ask that you like and subscribe. I apologize for any mispronunciations ahead of time. I do my best. Okay, let's go. Democratization is like getting a cat to stop being a dictator and actually share the couch. It involves swapping out the iron fist of a dictatorship for the warm embrace of democracy, typically signified by free and fair elections. But here's the catch. The transition often leads to an epic showdown between the ruling hardliners, who are convinced that foreign spies and disgruntled houseplants are sabotaging their regime, and the ruling reformers, who might begrudgingly acknowledge that giving up some power is necessary. But don't worry, they're not ready to hand over the keys to the candy store just yet. This is why recognizing an opposition leader or party, which sounds like a small gesture, is actually akin to letting a rival cat into the house. Take the Soviet Union, for example. Its dramatic fall under the weight of citizen demands was no walk in the park. Transitioning to democracy isn't as simple as flipping a switch. It requires established institutions like the military and police to loosen their grip on power, which can be as messy as a toddler's finger painting session. And let's not forget economic woes. They can be like a bad hair day for democracy, leaving everyone wondering if they should just stick with the old regime. Now, when democratization actually works out, we get to the holy grail known as democratic consolidation. This is when a country finally checks off all the necessary boxes for a thriving democracy, like having a free press, a lineup of competitive political parties, and a military that doesn't take orders from a cat. Plus, an economy that rewards hard work, and not just the work of really fast bribers, and a competent civil service are must-haves. Most importantly, a society needs a healthy dose of trust among its citizens. Why? Because democracy relies on everyone playing nice, even when the other side wins the election. Nobody wants to be that person who refuses to let go of the last slice of pizza. On the flip side, we have young countries like Somalia, which haven't quite figured out the recipe for democratic success and end up being classified as failed states. Here, security is about as rare as a unicorn. The economy is a train wreck. Healthcare and education are in shambles, and corruption runs rampant. To fix this, outside countries often try to step in and play superhero, aiming to strengthen those wobbly governing institutions and nudge the country towards stability and, fingers crossed, democracy. Now let's look at a few governments that are not our American government. First, the United Kingdom, a delightful mix of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, where democracy thrives under a unitary parliamentary government. Think of it as a big family where everyone has a say, but no one actually listens. Their constitution is like a British tea, part written, part unwritten, and best served with a side of tradition. Now, while the UK technically has a monarchy, the monarch today is more of a ceremonial figurehead, like a royal trophy on the mantelpiece that everyone admires, but no one actually consults. Real power? That's in the hands of the Prime Minister, who holds court, pun intended, and runs the show, while the Queen keeps her crown dusted. Much like a fancy British pub quiz, the Prime Minister isn't elected directly. Instead, they're chosen by the Parliament. Imagine a game of musical chairs where the chairs are the seats of the House of Commons, which is filled with 650 MPs who are elected like contestants in a reality show, yet somehow still have less influence than a soggy biscuit in a teacup. They must follow party loyalty like it's a sacred British tradition, which it is, so good luck making a unique choice. Now let's not forget the House of Lords, where members have either inherited their seats or been appointed for life. It's like an aristocratic retirement home where the power is limited, but the tea is plentiful. Their influence is about as significant as a whisper in a football stadium. When it comes to the Prime Minister's cabinet, they're the team that actually runs things, kind of like the Avengers but without the cool costumes. And on the sidelines, the opposition party has its own shadow cabinet, always ready to jump in if they get a chance, like a group of players waiting for the coach to call their names. The British court system follows common law, which means judges are basically playing a never-ending game of Simon Says with past rulings. Without a single constitution to rely on, previous court decisions are crucial, like knowing the lyrics to a classic rock song to join in the sing-along. In recent years, the UK has embarked on a quest for devolution. No, not the kind that involves going back in time, but rather giving more authority to regional governments. It's like letting the kids take over the family vacation planning because, let's face it, they might have better ideas than the adults. As for seating arrangements in the House of Commons, it's quite the show. The Prime Minister and Cabinet Ministers strut their stuff on the front benches, while backbenchers, who sound more like a sports team than politicians, sit behind them, mostly taking notes or trying to figure out what's happening in the game. So while the US and the UK share a love for common law and democratic ideals, they're like two cousins at a family reunion. One's a free spirit, the US, who believes in federalism, while the other, the UK, prefers a unitary system where Parliament reigns supreme. And just to keep things interesting, the UK is all about party loyalty, while the US likes to think it's a little more independent. Cheers to that. Moving on from the UK, we will look at the Russian Federation. The Soviet Union was once the heavyweight champ of countries, strutting around as the largest nation on the globe. It was like the sequel to the Russian Empire, which bowed out in 1917 after a revolution that gave the Tsar a one-way ticket out of office. Meanwhile, that same year, Vladimir Lenin rolled into town with a revolutionary plot twist that brought the Communist Party to power, officially launching the USSR. That's the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, for those of you playing at home. Fast forward to 1924, when Joseph Stalin took the wheel after Lenin's exit stage left. He didn't just consolidate power, he went full-on extreme makeover Soviet edition, purging, jailing, exiling, and executing anyone who even thought about opposing him. But hey, he also transformed the Soviet Union into a military and industrial powerhouse. Talk about a busy schedule. Now, the USSR had 15 republics, with Russia flexing the biggest muscles, but it was all under the watchful eye of the Communist Party, which made decisions faster than you can say, "I can't believe it's not butter." In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev stepped onto the scene with a reform program that was part "let's shake things up" and part "let's be friends." He introduced perestroika, a fancy term for restructuring everything from the economy to politics, and glasnost, which meant the government decided to loosen its grip a bit and tolerate some dissent, probably after realizing that constant oppression was a bit of a buzzkill. But lo and behold, a wave of democratization hit, and the whole Soviet ship sank in 1992. Now Russia is like that awkward teenager trying to figure out democracy and economic reform. They've got a multi-party system, a president with enough power to make a sultan jealous, and a prime minister who's basically the president's right-hand person. Their legislature is called the Federal Assembly, which sounds all official, but really just means they've got two houses. One is the Council of the Federation, fancy title, not much power, and the other is the State Duma, the one that holds the real juice. In Russia, the president can issue policies faster than you can say parliamentary procedure, and if the legislature doesn't like it, they have to scramble to pass something to cancel it out. Now both the US and Russia like to think they're big shots on the world stage, but their political setups are like comparing apples and oranges. They both have elected presidents, though Russia adds a prime minister to the mix and two chambers in their legislatures. However, Russian presidents have more power than American ones, partly because Russians love a strong leader and are quick to hand over the reins. So, while interest groups and the media are having a field day in the US, they're kind of like wallflowers at the Russian political dance. Finally, we will do China. In 1949, Mao Zedong decided it was high time to kick up a storm in China and founded the People's Republic of China. Fast forward to the mid-1960s, and Mao was on a mission to give China a cultural makeover that would make any reality show star jealous. Enter the Cultural Revolution in 1966, where Mao's young Red Guards took it upon themselves to challenge teachers, intellectuals, and anyone who looked like they might have enjoyed a book or two. By 1968, the whole shebang had turned into a chaotic circus, and Mao thought, maybe we should hit the brakes on this roller coaster. Now in China, the Communist Party is basically the boss of the entire country. Think of it as a strict parent who allows you to go out and play economic reform, but they keep a tight grip on the human rights leash. The government has two main bodies, the National People's Congress and the State Council. The deputies of the National People's Congress are elected to 5-year terms, which is about as exciting as watching paint dry, especially since, according to the Constitution, they're supposed to be the top dogs. In reality, though, they have about as much power as a paperclip in a construction site. The real decision-making happens in the State Council, where the premier is chosen by the Central Committee of the Communist Party. Talk about a family reunion. For legal matters, there's a system of people's courts that handles everything from civil disputes to criminal cases, all under the watchful eye of the Supreme People's Court. Because nothing says fairness like a court system that sounds like it belongs in a dystopian novel. The central government has its hands firmly on the reins of local politics, controlling 22 provinces and 5 autonomous regions inhabited by ethnic minorities. And let's not forget the ongoing sibling rivalry between the People's Republic of China and Taiwan over who gets to be the official Chinese government. It's like an endless family feud that could use a good mediator. Comparing American and Chinese politics is like comparing apples and oranges, or maybe more like comparing a bustling farmer's market to a single-party parade. American politics is all about decentralization, checks and balances, and a whole bunch of voices chiming in from interest groups, the media, and the public. In contrast, China runs like a well-oiled machine, if that machine was only powered by a single party with no checks in sight. Ironically, both countries have different governance styles, but seem to be developing a friendship on the international stage. Cue the buddy cop movie soundtrack. Okay, and now to recap. Democratization is like convincing a cat to share the couch instead of ruling it with an iron paw, often marked by a struggle between hardliners and reformers over power. This transition isn't smooth, as seen in the Soviet Union's tumultuous shift to democracy, which requires established institutions to loosen their grip, all while economic challenges loom large. Successful democratization leads to democratic consolidation, characterized by free press, competitive parties, and a trusted civil society. In contrast, failed states like Somalia grapple with chaos and corruption, prompting foreign intervention. Looking at examples like the UK, Russia, and China highlights diverse governance styles. The UK boasts a parliamentary democracy with a ceremonial monarchy. Russia's system features a powerful president overshadowing its legislature, and China's Communist Party dominates without opposition. While the US emphasizes checks and balances, these countries showcase a range of political dynamics, each facing unique challenges on their path to stability and democracy. There you have it, folks. That is Comparative Political Systems Nutshelled. Thanks for stopping by Nutshelled History. Crack those like and subscribe buttons for me, please. It's the democratic thing to do. See y'all next time on Nutshelled History.